Hey, Shalom, Kahala, Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, Bashim Kahudash, the ones that passes a great millstone, and Shalom to you brothers in the highways and byways from the works sincerely and faithfully, and continually fighting the good fight of faith. Lord willing, we are all found in that number. All right. So tonight's lesson is going to be a topic that, a lot of people in this country are banking on, if you will. All right. But in all actuality, it's going to be, I believe it's going to be the entrance to the pushing of Romans, the 13th chapter. All right. So now, as we know about what's happening with people and their employment, and now a lot of people are, coming to the crossroads of losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods. And then you have those who are trying to put forth the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They're trying to use the EEOC exemption route. All right. And one of the exemptions is the religious exemption. All right. So that being said, if they put on the books, you have medical exemption and a religious exemption. By means and way of the religious exemption, that means your faith, your spiritual belief, your spiritual being takes precedence over anything that could be forced upon you. All right. And that being said, any religious establishment should not take any position on whether or not, an employer is first forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do, or come to the defense of, said powers to push their agenda if they're a so-called religious establishment. All right. They should remain as a disinterested party on both ends, due to the fact that there are people out there who are trying to use their spiritual or religious, position to aid them, in not taking part of what's happening. All right. So I said a lot. So the EEOC, Section 12, religious discrimination. And it says, this guidance document was issued upon approval by vote of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It goes down to say, when it was, Section 12, religious discrimination, date 1/15/21, general topic, religion, and so on and so forth. Goes on to say citation Title 7, blah, blah, blah. All right. So this document was put in place so people can fall back on what they believe as far as their spirituality and their faith. All right. So in other words, no employer or no government agency should be able to infringe upon you as long as you're promoting your faith, right? So I say all that to go back to this. So let's get into it. All right. So we have a document here called the Bellingham Bulletin. All right. Now this is located here in Massachusetts. And it says, letter to the editor, Franklin Interfaith Council supports COVID-19 vaccinations. All right. So let's just take a look at who the Franklin Interfaith Council is. All right. Let me go. I believe this is the one here. All right. So this is the Franklin Interfaith Council. And it says participating house of worships include. It says Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They're in favor of you getting the jab. First Universalist Society of Franklin, they're in favor of you getting the jab. Franklin Federate Church, they're in favor. Franklin United Methodist Church, they're in favor of you getting the jab. St. George Episcopal Church, they're in favor of you getting the jab. St. Mary's Catholic Parish, they're in favor of getting the jab. And Temple It's Cham, they're in favor of getting the jab. Now, as you see here, St. Mary's Catholic Parish. Now, nothing goes on in the Catholic Church realm without the authority of the Vatican. All right? So, if this church is involved in this council, that had to be approved through the Vatican and through the proper channels. All right? So out of all these, the most notable one is St. Mary's Catholic Parish. All right. So going back now, let's get some understanding. It says, Franklin clergy want people to consider facts. All right. But wait a minute. According to the EEOC, you have a right, a protected right to use your faith as a means to avoid being pressured into doing something you don't want to do. Now, you see how the dynamics of all this is starting to work? On one hand, they're breathing, you can use your religious exemption, but on the other hand, the very people that you're trusting in to support and back you is telling you to consider it. Okay, so a little bit of reading on this one. Franklin, local faith leaders are encouraging people to consider getting vaccinated against the COVID-19 if they have not already done so and are eligible for the shot. Okay, now this is the church. Once again, the church should take no position on any of this. Okay, but what they're doing is they're advocating on behalf of, let's scroll down. They're advocating on behalf of all right, so I'm not gonna state who they are, who they're advocating for, but these are the powers that be. And when you go into Romans, the 13th chapter, okay, these are the powers that be. Obey these powers. Okay? And it's just in this little segment here, it starts off and it says, in their statement, faith leaders suggest that people who may be hesitant because they are fearful about I'm going to say that, I'm not going to say the word anymore, talk to their doctor and also read up on the science behind the website of and here you go. Okay, these are those powers. Okay, there's one there. There's one there. Okay. And then they go on to say, in quotes, we hope that everyone will use their God-given powers of reason, discernment, and understanding to make an informed decision to get in the care of their neighbors as well as themselves, clergy members wrote. Okay? So it's just a matter of time, man. It's just a matter of time before this starts sweeping across the country, where all these so-called religious establishments are going to pressure you into doing this, outside of what you truly believe. Okay? So now, let's say your employer decides that, okay, we need you to get something from your religious establishment to prove that, this is what it is. And then what's going to happen is these establishments are going to say, oh, we don't support that. And this is what they're saying essentially right here. They don't support any exemption. Okay? They don't support that. So you're going to be asked out, man. You're going to be asked out. Okay, so here's one of the verses they're using. To the editor, love your neighbor as yourself as a key principle in the religions we practice. All right? We believe it's what God calls us to do. All right? And it goes on to read about, how there's a pandemic going on, and it's your religious right to watch out for your neighbor. And if your neighbor's not healthy, if you're not healthy, then your neighbor can't be healthy. Basically, that's what this article is talking about. All right. And here's what they're quoting. Leviticus 19:18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. All right. And once again, because all these nations have now taken on this word and picked up the word, now it's more, what word am I looking for? It's more universal. Okay. Now, when you understand and read the scriptures, and I'll read that from the top again. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people. Okay? The children is talking about the children of Israel. That's who it's talking about. And we are the Lord's people. But once again, because now everybody picked up the Bible, now it's all universal and all inclusive. You see? But be that as it may. Be that as it may. Romans 13:1. Let every soul be subjected unto the higher power. For there is no power but of the Most High. And the powers that be are ordained of the Most High. And there you have it. Verse 1 says it all. Okay? And going back to this article here, I believe it was this one here. Okay. Let me go too far here. Right. Going back to this article, and if you read this little paragraph here, it gives you an idea of who these powers are. Who these powers were given, authority, if you will. And now the church and the religious establishments are pushing their agenda. They're actually pushing their agenda. And like I said, they should be at a neutral stance, but they're not. So they can kiss that shit right out the window, man. Kiss that so-called religious exemption right out the goddamn window. All right. So here's what some of the church leaders are saying. Here are some reasons we would like everyone who is eligible to get it. Okay? It drastically reduces the possibility of you contracting the virus and spreading it to others. Okay? These are the church members. Okay? What you call the Franklin Interfaith Council. This is the Interfaith Council speaking here. Okay? And it goes on to say, even if a vaccinated person does get an outbreak or get a breakthrough infection, they get a much milder case, as the vaccine is highly effective at preventing hospitalizations and death. Now, how do you know that? But anyway, I'm not going to speak too much on it. Try to keep the page alive a little bit, but this is probably, teetering on the edge as well. But once again, all this information being brought out is just for, educational purposes, where one can go back and do his or her own research. And it goes on, since I'll put the link in the description box. That's what I'll do. I'll put the link in the description box and you can go and check it out. And copy that to the clipboard. All right, come out of that and go from there. All right, so that's just about it on that. It's not really much, but that time is coming where these establishments are now going to start pushing that Romans 13. All right, and this seems to me to be the perfect segue on how they're going to get that done. Once they start shutting that, so that religious, exemption now. Once they start shutting that down, you can best believe and kiss your ass goodbye. All right. So Lord willing, I'll see you brothers in another show. I say shalom.